undress. I am already naked. What else can I remove? Once, I attended a cicada break its shell. I stayed up all night to be present. I was 8. It was summer, in the silence of dawn, blue light. The cicada started knocking its body from within. Blinks perplexed me. Every time I blinked, it paired itself. The new body exposed, white, glittering, so new it was wet, so naked, almost invisible. Its transparent wings reflected the blue. When it fully came out of its cell, it stood on the top of its empty self. Its volume was in two, void and lightness. The cicada did neither move nor sing until the morning came. It stayed still, gradually altering the color of its body. This patience, quicker than speeding. In the sunlight, it was no longer white nor naked. It flew away, leaving the empty shell behind. I took the shell on my hand. It weighed nothing. Nobody owned that body anymore. Body, transparent, obscure, tangible form of void. Body, opaque, absolute, naked form of presence. When I attended someone's leaving, we were alone in the room. We were 2 until one left. My hand was laid upon another on the forehead. There was a sound of pulse to the rhythm in the background. I stroked the forehead quietly to the rhythm for hours. Our eyes met sometimes. There was an understanding. We said nothing. A few minutes before the pulse went off beat, something subtly pressed back my hand. I had to make way. I felt the leaving. Gently, my fingers only traced. The body remained, removed from what had just fled. Our eyes met again. I saw nothing hereat. I was alone. Doctors came, minutes after the parting. Mechanically, the sound of pulse played syncopation. The heart was looking for its owner, the one it used to sink to. 2 is not 1. More than 2, I cannot count. I have no power over this collision against the sameness. of sweat sliding on my arm, and it was an ant walking on the skin, putting punctuation marks here and there. It deliberately hovered around. I flicked it with my finger. Flying an arc, it glittered like spangles. It landed on my chest, then crawled into my heart where everything goes through. Dark, deep, empty space that carries the whole weight. It goes in all directions, looking for an exit. But there's none, only an entrance. Resistance under the skin. It traces an outline of myself. Patiently, it separates me from my mode. This patience, quicker than my reversed unevenness. A hollow becomes a bump. A bump, a hollow. Already, I am inside out. Where's the ant? I cannot feel it anymore. Who is it that knocks me from within? If I answer, do I begin to peel off? But how would I know the visitor is myself? Where will I go if you undress me from within? Where will I go if I undress myself? This is a text I wrote, paragraph by paragraph, little by little, in different moments, and put together. Eventually, I think I was changing between languages and also between locations, and eventually I put them together, finally completed it at the airport of Doha, from where I sent it to Alia, because she invited me to include my text in the catalog of the show. And by that time, I knew, that was December 2014, I think. And by that time, I knew that I was going to produce a fragrance, an experience of a fragrance. I knew that in the next coming months, I would develop scents. I didn't know how exactly, but I knew it, and I was excited. I was quite excited. I was excited because it was the first time that I would explore this medium, body. And my medium has been space. I always think with space. Space is my reality, and I write with space, I think with space, I live with it. And when it's about space, myself or you is already in it, because there's no frame when we talk about space. But when we talk about body, on the other hand, it quite often has an outline. And this outline seems to contain the extreme different things, heart, organs, brains, and emotions, all those psychological and physical complexity one is considered to contain. so it was exciting for me to touch the field of body with this project. I was quite excited. And here we're in the space designed to experience a fragrance, which is composed of 8 different scents, separately floating in the space, to create one experience, which is the 9th, that I call La Japonaise. And this 9th scent is completely absent in form. It does not have a liquid. The liquid does not exist. Even the smell does not necessarily exist, except the perception that you're having of the smell within the space right now. I do not have the written composition of this fragrance. It changes depending on where you stand, or how many people are here, or environment, how the wind comes. Everything changes this experience of this fragrance. I named it. It's me who just called it La Japonaise. And here, where I am, is a city called Berlin. I think you know it much more than I do, that it's named Berlin. And I know that I've been here before. I've been here, I was here quite a few times. That was more than 10 years ago. I was a student in London. And walking around this area, I would remember these streets much more empty, much less people. And around that time I did meet many interesting people, but not as much as now, where the mixture of people is creating a landscape. It was much empty. I would remember quiet bookstore, or I would remember like all different things, including record stores in an empty building, or electronic music concert in a parliament, or ruined architectures, all that. But that's very different from how I see it now. And that's Berlin. I knew it in my memory. And in the same way, I grew up in Tokyo. When I travel around and when I return to Tokyo, this city can be totally irrelevant to the image that I used to have obtained. And the city, Tokyo, I would call it, it could be totally different. And in the same way, I would meet a person, and then I would remember it, and then the next moment I see this person, him or her, I can hardly imagine if this could be the same person compared to my memory of this person. And naming is a strong thing. If you have a name, it creates an entity, it creates a territory, it labels your memory also, to some extent. But this name, that you would remember it, might not exactly show the same thing in the next moment. And it's scarily true, I think. Names identify class or entity, and it really sometimes starts traveling beyond what it originally meant by itself, or beyond the thing that is actually subjecting to. They start producing images, and they start producing your memory also. But how can I say I know something? How when would you allow me to say that I know you? In this space, there are different fragrances, different scents, and these scents all originate from the images, and these images were originating from my experiences and my memory, which is based on my journeys within North Africa or beyond. And these images, my internal images, were transcribed into texts, my texts, and then it was translated into scents. So this entire thing is coming from my internal image. That's something that I saw here, and nothing has existed before I saw it. And I was looking for someone who could translate these images into scents. I didn't know who to work with, but I met this person, a Moroccan nose. And when I first met him, he told me he was not a perfumer. He said that he doesn't make perfume. He has made perfume occasionally for Arabian princess or something, but he's not a perfumer. He made it clear. And I knew it. But I wanted to work with him because when I spoke with him in the first few words, I felt that he would understand or he would read the philosophy of the project. He would read the text properly, in other words. So I started exchanging with him, and he agreed, thankfully. He agreed to work with me, and we decided to move on. So he's not a perfumer. In this case, he is a translator. He's a translator as much as I myself is a translator of my own images that appeared in my head, but these images were translated into my texts. But the difference between myself and him was I saw the images in my head, but he never saw the images. He only read the text describing what I saw in my head. That was the difference. There were two translators here, but that was the only difference. And we had to create a dialogue, and because here the subject of the dialogue is an image, and we exchange image through words and sense. But the subject we want to exchange was actually an image that only I saw. So these 8 scents that he received were as an assignment. The texts were texts were excerpts from a series of books that I'm doing. And one of the texts he received read like this, for example. I'll read one of the assignments he got. He would receive a paragraph from a storybook that I had written previously. She had her own blood barely left. Tired, she decided not to leave her room for months. She spent many hours sleeping, but she did not stop bleeding. The last drops of her blood were trickling down her middle finger every second. They made small stains in her room as she walked. Her cat followed behind her and tried to lick them off the floor. But every time a drop of her blood touched the floor, it grew into a red poppy. The more she bled, the more poppies. Eventually, her room was filled with plenty and had grown a poppy field. So that was one of the texts he received. And poppy is not necessarily an olfactory plant. Even if you see a big field of red poppies, you don't smell so much. And here I gave him this text and asked him, so I would like to smell a poppy field, red poppy field, please. And there, his first reaction, the first question I received from him was, so, do you want to smell red or black? He asked me. And yes, even blood, when you bleed, the moment that this red liquid comes out of your body and then exposed to the external environment, it changes its color into black. And yes, it changes its texture even. Everything changes. He said that red poppies, they're strong as color because it's momentum, and then eventually it turns into black, he says. So, do you want to smell red or black? And there's another scent called, let's say, a garden of a single flower. I asked him, okay, there is a garden. Please just imagine, there is a huge garden. But in this garden, there's only one flower standing. And this flower is a bird of paradise. Do you know this flower? It's a South African origined flower. And it looks like a bird on the top. And it has plenty of colors, multiple colors in one flower. Orange, purple, white, all colors. So I asked him, just imagine please if there's a huge garden, but there's only one bird of paradise. So this bird of paradise is also not necessarily a olfactory plant. It doesn't smell strongly at all. And if this is standing, it's a garden, but it's a flower, but it's not even a flower. There is only one, but it's not even a flower, it's a bird. How does it smell? That was one of his assignments. And when I received answer to this, the actual translation of this image as a smell, I was shocked. Because when I smelled it, I had, 8 of them, but with this one, the moment I smelled it, it was very strange because this image was different from what I saw when I was probably transcribing this text, what I vaguely saw, and what I smelled, and which was produced by this smell as an image, was different, very different, but extremely, essentially same. I saw something vertical, and this verticality was so strong. There was a line going up and up and up until it reaches the sky, the blue sky, and then the smell was falling from the top of this verticality down to where I am. That's the image I saw. But when I was describing this garden of single flower, I did not have such an abstract image. I would not describe it as something vertical. But immediately when I saw this image by smelling his language, I understood the power of communication. There, he only used 2 kinds of essential oils. He said that this was the most difficult one out of the 8. He said that all were very difficult, but this one was especially difficult. But somehow, I don't know why, but he came up with this dichotomy to produce this smell. And this smell gave me a strong impression of the communication between different languages. What else can I tell you? I think it was a dialogue between myself and him, but using languages that were available and to us, and also we were most capable of, but both were using different languages. And none of the texts, like I just gave an example, was describing a smell at all. It was only describing images. I was not interested in telling him, okay, I like jasmine, I like cinnamon, please put that kind of smell. That was not at all my point of interest. He had a full control of the smell itself. Only the images I had a control of, and then he had to translate those images into scents. It's about my understanding of body, and body when uncovered, and it's not about the outlined physical nudity that I am so interested in. I am not so interested in the texture of your skin, or color of your skin, color of your eyes, color of your hair. They might be very beautiful. They might be very, very attractive to me, and I might even like it better than mine at some point. But that's not really my point of interest, because it changes. The way I see you change, and the way I like you will change. And I wonder why. I really wonder why it happens. And that's what I'm interested in. And in the same way, today I have this opportunity to talk to you and explain some of the examples of the smells. But I am not so interested in describing the images that these scents are based upon. I'm not here to really tell you with this installation and pieces that, okay, there are 8 scents, and then these images were behind this, and these were described in these paragraphs, which was written by myself, and it was written this way, that way. That's not what I'm so interested in. I would like you to only remember this experience of the 9th. That's the only thing I would like you to experience. And I am very desperately interested in what you see by experiencing this. And I want to know that. I'm sure, I am certain that this image is different from person to person, even depending on your day. If you come back, you would probably have another image, but that's the image I want to know, and that's the image I want you to see, and that's why there is the 9th scent that I want to share. Because I believe that this is the communication, and I believe I want to know you, and that's why I'm here, that's why this work is here. It's not only because I want you to know me. That's how I would like to open up this body of myself to one experience where we can exchange. So, yes, thank you for attending. Thank you so much for attending.